The movie begins with Meng Yi, a mighty general in ancient China's Qin dynasty. Meng Yi is tasked with escorting Orc Su, a Korean princess, back to China to serve as a concubine for Qin Shi Huang to strengthen diplomatic relationships. As soon as his eyes lay upon her, he's struck by her beauty. Suddenly, one of Orc Su's escorts is shot by an arrow. General Choi and his army claim to take the princess to her rightful home as his betrothed. They attack the royal carriage with flaming arrows. One of General Choi's men takes over the carriage, but Meng Yi manages to push him off. In the process, the carriage nearly topples off a cliff. Meng Yi ties the rope to himself to stop it from falling. General Choi tries to convince Orc Su to come with him, as her becoming a concubine to the Emperor of Qi will look like a surrender of their nation. Choi offers to duel Meng Yi for the princess' life and ties himself to the falling carriage. Meng Yi eventually wins, and Choi tells him to save Orc Su as he holds on to the carriage. The carriage falls with the princess, so Meng Yi jumps after her. They hold on to each other as they fall into the river below. Suddenly, Jack wakes up from the dream, clutching his pillow tightly like Meng Yi did with the princess. He draws his vision in his journal, noting that he has had the same dream for 3 months, in which he's always an ancient general saving a beautiful princess. His friend, William, calls him for a visit. Later, as the two of them catch up, Jack asks why William's back in Hong Kong. He opens a video call inviting Jack to his anti-gravity research project. William invites him to find a rare material to create a zero-gravity field. Jack doesn't understand why he's invited to this, saying he's only an archaeologist. William says that he already knows something that could help him, as Jack wrote an article on his discovery, which could reveal the secret about the mysterious ancient phenomenon. But Jack says his discovery of the Desarme is based on a myth. William asks him to trust him on this, and Jack finally agrees. Later, they travel to an ancient temple of a Desar prince in India, where many devotees are praying to a holy man who claims he can fly. They see with their eyes that he's flying, but Jack isn't convinced, so he goes inside the temple to investigate. Inside, they find a floating coffin with a sword beside it. Jack deciphers the ancient carvings on the coffin and learns that during a mission to the Qin Empire, the Desar prince brought treasures and women as gifts. In return, the Qin emperor offered him one of his concubines and asked him to choose, but he refused when the prince chose his favorite, Orc Su. Instead, the Qin emperor gave him a painting of Orc Su and the Qin star gem. Meanwhile, William removes a strange black rock from a statue. He accidentally collapses the zero-gravity field holding up the tomb, sword, and levitating holy man. Fortunately, Jack rolls out of the way just in time to avoid the heavy stone coffin and sword from falling on him. The coffin opens, and Jack sees a hidden painting of the princess he has seen in his dreams. A vision occurs with Jack. The painter struggles to paint a portrait of the princess because she isn't smiling. Her handmaiden comments that she hasn't smiled since entering the palace. When Orc Su sees Meng Yi arrive, she smiles brightly at him. His vision is interrupted by William as the guards arrive. The guards attack them for trespassing, but he expertly maneuvers himself and William out of harm's way. Jack manages to knock one of the guards and corners the other. William suddenly knocks the guard out, and he brings the sword with him, claiming he's borrowing it for protection. The fallen holy man points at them as they leave the temple, and the devotees rush after them. They run up to a cliff, where William has a helicopter to get them out. William manages to get on the helicopter, but rocks are thrown at them and the helicopter. It's too dangerous to fly any closer, so they must leave Jack alone on the cliff with the sword. Jack leaps off a cliff and falls into a river. He emerges from the water, dressed in his armor as General Meng Yi, as he looks for the princess. He finds her unconscious, floating nearby, so he takes her to shore to dry up and heal his wounds. She gains consciousness, and he immediately apologizes for failing to protect her. Suddenly, they are attacked, and they take Orc Su. They threaten to kill her if he doesn't lay down his sword. She orders him not to, as she wants him to live. As he lowers his sword, the soldier takes the opportunity to stab him. He uses the sword and kills the 2 soldiers but is still gravely injured, falling unconscious. So, Orc Su tends to his wounds. Meanwhile, Jack loses consciousness and drifts along with the current until he's saved by Samantha, who finds him, and with the help of her elephant, Lakshum, they manage to get his body onto the shore. He soon gains consciousness, and Samantha brings Jack to see her uncle, a Kalarapayattu master. Jack apologizes for the trouble he has caused and is given back the sword, but he explains that it isn't his and only comes to find some answers. His answers will be given after a duel. During the fight, Jack recalls a duel with the Desar prince in his past life and briefly recovers his fighting skills from his life as Meng Yi. He asks the master if he believes in past lives and explains that he has been dreaming of an ancient general and a princess. He tries to ask more about it, but the master explains that only he can find the answers he needs. As Meng Yi and Orc Su spend more time together throughout their journey, she develops feelings for him. But Meng Yi, while harboring similar feelings for her, steps back, reminding her of her purpose of becoming a concubine in the interests of her people and completing his mission. He begs her to live for her people and him. She finally relents and agrees to live, but only for him. Meanwhile, Samantha tells Jack that the police are after him, and they run into the village to escape. They attempt to blend in with the crowd but are soon spotted. Samantha helps fight off the police who are after them. They soon get stuck on a machine but manage to get off. Jack turns off the device just before the stuck guards are chopped up. Later, Samantha brings him to a boat that will take him to China, and Jack promises to return to see her and the master. After extensive research, William and his team conclude that the strange black rock is an anti-gravity material and is a fragment of a meteorite. They also discover that if the light emitted from the stone gets blocked, it would be functionless. Jack succeeds in returning home safely and meets with William. They figure out that the sword must be from the Qin dynasty, and he donates the blade to the National Museum of China as a national treasure. This angers Maggie as it's her foundation that funds William's project. Jack and William argue about who should rightfully get the artifact. Still, Jack reminds them it's China's as it's a national artifact. Later, Maggie brings William to Professor Ku, who has been funding him all these years and is a leader of a criminal syndicate of tomb raiders. Professor Ku urges William to continue working with Jack as it will make him a great scientist. Meanwhile, in ancient China, the Qin emperor becomes critically ill, and the immortal pill is the only thing to save his life. However, it was stolen by rebels during transport to the emperor. Meng Yi overhears that if the emperor dies, his concubines will be interred with him, so he requests to retrieve the immortal pill himself. The emperor's council protests because the emperor will be defenseless if he leaves. Meng Yi offers to go with only a small cavalry. Before leaving, Meng Yi tells Orc Su that he's leaving and reiterates his promise to protect her, and Orc Su vows to await his return. Meng Yi chooses a small group of soldiers to go with him, but they all swear allegiance and go with him. Soldiers ambush the guards escorting the pill on the orders of the treacherous prince and chancellor. Meng Yi finally arrives and shows the chancellor the imperial decree for a ceasefire, but he ignores it. The fighting ensues, and the so-called rebels are soldiers led by General Meng Yi. Meng Yi finds Meng Yi in the battle, tells him the chancellor wants him dead, and offers protection behind his troops. The chancellor shoots at Meng Yi but only manages to hit his horse, Black Wind, which slows them down. Meng Yi hands over the pill to his deputy, Nanggong Yan, and orders him to protect Orc Su. Meanwhile, William wakes Jack, who apologizes for their previous argument and agrees that the relics should be returned. He gives him a framed picture of Orc Su and tells him about what he found regarding Jack's dreams about waterfalls and tunnels around Shen. They go to a waterfall 200 miles from Mount Li and detect a cave behind it. Unbeknownst to Jack, Professor Ku and his men are following him and William. Jack goes to the top of the waterfall, jumps off it, and into the cave. He finds an opening and reports it to William. Then, Ku and his men create an opening using explosives, which knocks Jack unconscious. A levitating Orc Su finds him, and he gains consciousness with Orc Su by his side, mistaking her for Meng Yi. She takes him outside the carriage, she shows him the frozen army, and they both float around the Qin emperor's mausoleum. Nanggong Yan sees and attacks him, believing he's an intruder until Orc Su tells him to stand down. He finally recognizes him and apologizes for attacking. Meanwhile, Ku and his men find the opening where Jack is, believing he's now dead. Ku jumps off the cliff and realizes there's a zero-gravity field. At the same time, Nanggong Yan explains to Jack he managed to bring the pill to the emperor, but the emperor's council ordered him to take it to ensure it was safe. They also made Orc Su take it, making them both immortal and condemning them to imprisonment in the Qin emperor's mausoleum for eternity. Nanggong Yan asks what happened to Meng Yi after he left with the pill. After Black Wind dies, Meng Yi confronts the chancellor and his forces alone. The battle rages on, with Meng Yi killing many soldiers, then the chancellor faces him alone. With Meng Yi weak and bloodied, the chancellor takes the chance and kills him by cutting off his head. Orc Su and Nanggong Yan need help to understand that the man they are facing differs from Meng Yi. Suddenly, the entrance to the mausoleum explodes, and Ku and his men emerge. Nanggong Yan confronts them, and Ku deduces he's immortal. Nanggong Yan attacks them to stop them from further entering the mausoleum. At the same time, Ku approaches Orc Su to ask her for the immortal pill. Jack orders Nanggong Yan to protect Orc Su, while he fights the others. Ku corners Orc Su and drags her to the Celestial Palace to find the pill. Jack stops them and fights Ku. During the fighting, William accidentally breaks the field balance after removing a piece of the meteorite. He causes the tomb to collapse on itself, and he calls Jack for help. Jack asks Orc Su to accompany him while Ku goes to the palace. William is drowning in mercury, telling him he must get out as he's not a tomb raider, and asks Jack to finish his research. Then, he gives the black stone he got from the Indian temple. Orc Su finally realizes he's not Meng Yi and says she will wait forever for the honest Meng Yi, believing he still lives. Jack uses the black stones to levitate himself out of the collapsing tomb. As Ku nears the pill, Nangong Yan grabs onto him as they fall, and they both perish. Jack emerges from the bottom of the waterfall alive but tired and alone. The movie ends with Jack back on his boat with a published copy of The Myth, a book he wrote about his adventure and experiences, which he dedicates to his friend, William. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.